Hi, my name is Jack McLean and I'm the founder of Prepare Like a Pro. Growing up, I loved playing cricket and football and had a strong passion for helping others. Over the past 11 years working in the industry, I've been lucky enough to have worked alongside Sean Murphy, the head strength and conditioning coach at Essendon, Luke Boyd, physical performance manager at Hawthorn, and interned under Andrew Russell, high performance director at Carlton. I started Prepare Like a Pro after my time as a strength and conditioning coach at Hawthorn Football Club to help developing footballers gain a competitive edge with AFL standard preparation methods. If you're a developing footballer wanting to take your game to the next level, we'd love to help you. At Prepare Like a Pro, you can expect to not only improve your athleticism, but also lower your risk of injury or overload. There are training programs suitable for every level of involvement. I would love to help you choose the one that best suits your goals and personal motivation. Head to our Inquire Now page and I'll get back to you soon. Welcome back to the Prepare Like a Pro live chat show tonight with Gaetano Faranda, the high performance manager of the Williamstown Football Club and course coordinator at Victoria University. GT has also worked as head strength and conditioning coach at Boxhill. That's where I was lucky enough to meet the great man, and he's worked at Western Jets, done his master's degree in high performance sport. Quick shout out to Lucas O'Dea, who's just signed up to our Academy Patreon subscription. Welcome on board, Lucas. Really looking forward to helping your football journey, mate. And I'll catch you on the Discord chat group. And before we start episode, Prepare Like a Pro podcast mission is to empower aspiring guests as well as give practical knowledge from some of the industry's most inspiring individuals and to strengthen the AFL community. So if you like the show, guys, please follow us on Instagram and subscribe to the podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Welcome on board, mate. Thanks.
How are you, mate? How's things?
Yeah, going well. As good as it can be for us Melburnians, but
Exactly right.
This is the highlight of my day, mate. Looking forward to catching up.
Oh, mate, same as mine. It's been a long day. I was looking forward to this 8 o'clock time slot, so it's going to be a good chat.
It will. Let's dive right into it.
Yep.
Take us back to the beginning of your career, or even before you started.
Yep.
At what age did you discover you had a passion for strength and conditioning?
Mate, in all honesty, I think I was probably a bit later than most. I loved my sport as a kid, playing football, basketball, everything you could think of. As a teenager, I even hired a service of a personal trainer, not really a strength and conditioning coach, when I was 16. Had a few sessions with him there. And going through my high school, I didn't think about strength and conditioning as a career. I was actually looking at sports psychology.
Oh, yeah.
So my pathway from high school into university was actually looking at a sports psychology background. So I done the smart thing and became a personal trainer. I wasn't going to work at Macca's for 4 years and study a double degree. I became a personal trainer, gave me freedom to work when I wanted around my studies, allowed me time to focus on my studies. And then it was actually in 2013. So let me go back a year to 2012.
Yep.
I was actually doing placement. Actually, not placement. It was more the fact that a friend was the president of a soccer club, a tier 4 soccer club. Said, mate, do you want to come down and flog the boys for a few sessions? I'd only been a personal trainer for a year. Had no idea strength and conditioning. But this was my first exposure to a sporting organisation. Flogged them as they asked. Didn't really get anything out of it. But when my first round of placement for uni came around in 2013, I contacted the captain of the soccer club who actually ran a sports academy at Victoria University Secondary College in St. Albans.
Yep.
So I contacted Rocco and organised to do my 70-hour placement with him, but more in a sports psychology role, more than S&C. With my PT experience, they allowed me to help out in the gym, but my main role was actually to implement a wellness program, goal setting, and I put together a 70-page document for the athletes to do throughout the course of the year. So, that was my, career path. And then towards the end of 2013, I found out that Victoria University had actually taken away the Masters of Sports Psychology, meaning out of whole of Australia, there was only 15 spots per year to do a Masters in Sports Psychology. I'm not going to lie, I'm not the most academic person there is.
And where would you have had to go on? Where would you have had to go to? If
I would have had to move to Queensland. I can't remember which university exactly, but I would have to move to Queensland. Yep. So, it was a
crossroads.
It was a big decision for me. I looked at my scores and my results. I was like, let's be honest, this ain't happening. I better start thinking about a new career path. And I actually that summer of 2013, I went to the Himalayas. Spent 2 months hiking through the Himalayas. As you can imagine, it gives you a lot of thinking time as you're walking through the mountains. And I had a friend I worked with at Good Life, Darren Zara. He was doing the same course as me, and he was starting to go down that strength and conditioning path. Very good friend of mine. We grew up playing football together, happened to do the same course, happened to work at the same gym. And, I had a bit of what he said or what he would talk about in the back of my mind as I'm walking. And I'm like, I got the PT experience. So when I actually came back from the Himalayas, I actually inquired about doing my level 1 strength and conditioning. Mm-hmm. And I realized that, I don't know if that's the same now, but I skipped my level 1 and went straight to my level 2 because I had my 2 years of university.
Yep.
And from then on, mate, it was, I was always passionate about the health and fitness industry, but, from that moment, I, just, bought into it and, decided this is the career I want to go. And ever since then, just doing what I need to do to keep building my, reputation in the industry and turning the passion into a career.
Yeah, no, it's great, mate. It's I guess firstly, you mentioned the passion for sports psychology at a young age. Where did that stem from? Had you worked with a sports psychologist at the time, or did you know someone closely that you sort of were looking up to at that point?
In all honesty, no. I never met a sports psychologist in my life before that stage. I just always had an interest in the human mind.
Yeah.
From a young age, I actually, experienced, the loss of a few friends. So I don't know if I was always, naturally, whenever there was something like that occurred, I was always that one that people turn to for advice, for a shoulder to cry on. So I just thought, it's my calling. And my mixture of, my love of sport and my, intrigue of the human mind, I just decided on that career path myself. Never actually met one until I actually started studying psychology.
Yeah, interesting, mate. Sorry to hear about your friends and that.
No, that's life.
And so then you decided that you weren't going to pursue it and you were going to focus on strength and conditioning. You mentioned Durham helped you out with that, a colleague you were working with at the time, and having that time to think in the Himalayas. There's actually a couple of PTs and strength and conditioning coaches that have asked on that topic, if you don't mind me asking them. So Paul Carden, you might know him, and Adam Tong.
I know both of them.
Yeah,
former friends of mine.
Paulie, he's written in advice you'd give to fitness professionals interested in getting involved in strength and conditioning. So at that point, what was your sort of mindset early on in your career? How did you go about getting into strength and conditioning?
So I have, like I said, Darren Zara, who good friend of mine. I spoke to him at this stage, early 2014. He's already started working at the Western Jets, so I started picking his brain. And eventually he was how I got my first role within strength and conditioning at the Western Jets. But so I started picking Darren's brain. Another friend of mine who I work with, he just moved from South Africa. I was lucky enough to meet him through a few people. Very intelligent bloke, Neaton. And, he shared similar passions. And, he said to me, if you're doing your level 2 strength and conditioning course, I'll do it with you. So, I made sure I had the support of the people around me going into the industry because I didn't know. I did not know what I was doing. I was very new to it. If you asked me what MAS was, or if you asked me of any of these, principles I've learned now, there was no chance I was explaining it to you. So I really latched on to the people around me, the people who had the knowledge of this industry, picked their brains, and started to actually learn what strength and conditioning was all about, how it differed from personal training. And I found that, okay, great, I'm studying my exercise science degree, I'm studying a psychology degree at the same time. I found that, throughout my whole career, psychology has helped me. But I started buying into, readings, journal articles that were more focused on physical preparation of athletes.
Yep.
So I started reading, starting to build an interest. And then before I know it, I met a bloke named James McConnell, who was a high performance manager at Coburg at the time, because he had to sign me and Neaton off on our lifts, on the 5-6 lifts, to say, yep, these guys are ready to do the level 2. And then I started to pick his brain. And yeah, he was a very big help as well. So really, for young personal trainers or personal trainers who are looking to go into the strength and conditioning industry, I think another thing is sacrifice, because if you establish yourself as a personal trainer, it can be hard to sacrifice the money you're making to, potentially volunteer your time for the first 3-4 years. So, really build a strong support network. Don't be scared to ask questions, especially if you know that person has knowledge within the industry. And sacrifice, just go all in. If you're thinking about it, just do it.
Yeah, I love that. There's a couple of gems that we'll unpack there. I think
Yep.
the first one, because I know you personally, I know this is something that you're strong on, is building relationships, and you mentioned leaning on people for support that are knowledgeable in the area. So you've mentioned a couple of mentors. Who are some other guys that helped you out to forge your path?
Yep. So, mate, and that's a hard question, a very hard question, because I personally believe anyone I've come across throughout this journey has actually helped me. Because I learned bits and pieces. And in all honesty, mate, there's former educators of mine like Callum Downey, Arj Pereira, who they taught me in the Diploma of Fitness in 2010, who I'm still in contact with. I was actually on the phone to Arj today, picking his brain, and Arj is actually my mentor, for strength and conditioning mentor. Darren, like I said, I mentioned him. He's a very good friend of mine, a bloke who I grew up with, playing football against each other. I was the full forward, he was the full back. We had some good battles on the field. And then, how it is, white line fever. We belt the shit out of each other on the field, but off the field, we're good friends. Them two pretty much are very huge in my career. And even today, I was on the phone to Darren. We were just talking business. But, like you said, I like to build relationships. I like to build, that rapport with especially athletes and other coaches. So, Darren, Arj were probably, are two big influences in my career. Mate, honestly, my first stint at the Western Jets, I was lucky enough to have Jay Ellis as my first high performance manager, and what I learned off him, and then technically my progression through the Western Jets, it wasn't until I came actually to Box Hill and met yourself where I actually learned more, because, after Jay, Darren was a high performance manager and I was working closely with him, and Darren was teaching me as I went. But then my third year, I think, at the Western Jets, I was thrown into a position where I didn't know everything just yet, but I just had to get through the season. And then, when I came to Box Hill, mate, having you, welcome me the way you did, having the club welcome me the way they did, it made my job easier. And, I learned much more, especially, implementing conditioning sessions, the way you would, implement the gym sessions, especially for the Hawthorn boys. I was lucky enough to witness that firsthand. So, even yourself, I would say, has had an influence on my career. But yeah, everyone I've come across has had an influence of some sort.
Yeah, thanks, mate. And I agree with that notion that you said that everyone helps out. Like, right back at you, mate. You've helped my progression throughout my career as well, and we always had good chats with Lara Bester and Josh Holding and those guys. And
good times, mate.
There was plenty of good, constructive conversations on how we were going to tackle not just the easy decisions, but ultimately those tough decisions which make you stronger as a practitioner when you've got good people around you. So
Exactly
thanks for
right.
sharing that. And I think it's with a couple of guys like Adam and Benny and was it Paulie as well. Adam's written in saying, what's a good way to get into your Bachelor of Exercise Science, and how do you start working with athletes in the sporting environment?
Well, this is the time to plug my job. So a good pathway, if you didn't get a good ATAR score to get into a Bachelor of Exercise Science, is actually the Certificate 3 and 4 at Victoria University. We're actually a direct pathway, and that's the course I coordinate, Certificate 3 and 4 at Victoria University. We're actually a direct pathway into exercise science at Victoria University. I think it actually gives the student up to 7 courses they can get direct entry into, and we're currently working on the new structure to actually get the students credit transfers. So that's one way of getting into exercise science degree. Another way is just applying for them. I know these days, depending on your age, depending on your history, it may be easier or harder to get into an exercise science course. But, I know for VU, it's a bit hard for me to talk about most other universities because from the age of 18 to 29, I've been associated with VU. We offer so many exercise science courses from clinical to sports practice and everything in between. So, it's a good thing where I never thought, like I said, I never thought I'd become an S&C coach, and mine was just a very broad exercise science part of my double degree. But I was able to then, change my preferences, change my electives to actually start helping me focus towards that goal of being an S&C coach. So, find a course that's suitable for you. Not all courses will be suitable. Enroll. Again, buy in. Me personally, I always say that working as a personal trainer while studying is always going to be beneficial because you're getting that industry experience, you're getting that coaching experience, and you can actually begin to implement things you're learning in class. So one of the best things I was able to do was sit in the classroom for 3 hours or do a practical on campus for 3 hours and leave that, drive straight to a session and implement something new for a client. They loved it. I loved it because I was able to reinforce my learning immediately. And, it worked for me. I had a successful PT career. So it was Adam who asked the question. You said?
Yeah, I think
yep. So, mate, just, find a course that's suitable for you. Knuckle down, do the hard yards, a few exercise courses, like your level 1 or level 2 ASCAR, and start local. Like I said, the first club I was exposed to was a State League 4 in the soccer. So it's, it doesn't matter how high or how low, you got to make those sacrifices. You might not get paid, but, you don't know who you're going to network with. I was lucky enough to go, State League 4 club, met Rocco, started at the VUSC Academy, and then worked my way up through there.
Yeah, it's so important to get the experience, like you mentioned, that you're developing the science at uni, but like you said, how do you apply that science and the art of coaching? So personal training is one way, and then another point that you made, getting experience in team environments, because how different is it working as a PT in a gym with your clients than working with coaches and physios and doctors?
Mate, so much different. Like I said, when I first got asked to go and help my mates team out, just flog them. That's all I knew. Just flog them. If thinking now, 9 years later, what I'd done to what I have been doing, I shake my head at myself. But if I didn't do it, I would never learn. So good experience. You got to learn by making mistakes as well. And State League 4 soccer club. If you made a mistake on your conditioning prescription, they're not going to notice. It's not going to be the difference between them winning or losing the title. So it's a good place to make mistakes as well.
And how did you go about getting those opportunities when you knew the industry, like you mentioned? How do you go about getting these contracts and getting progressions throughout your career? What's your go-tos?
Building rapport, getting to know people. Let's be honest, like the soccer club, I had my mate who was, like I said, the vice president, approach me. And then from there, even though I thought I'd done a terrible job, I still impressed, Rocco, who was the coordinator of the sports academy, who allowed me to do my placement there. Then obviously my friendship with Darren got me into the Western Jets. James McConnell actually got me to I was able to do a internship with him at FC11, which has gone bust now. So just, building those rapports and just, being eager to learn, because I don't go into a job pretending I know everything, because I don't. I go into a job wanting to learn something new and showing that thing. One thing I've noticed, especially now, hiring people or having people trying to contact me on LinkedIn for advice, I'm happy to give back. But just the way people approach conversation is as if they know more than me. And they probably do, but it's not how you approach things. So, being keen to learn, being keen to get experience and just building rapport, because you never know when that person might give you a phone call saying, "Hey, mate, we've got a role for you." Like, I think, you're a prime example, Jack. When I put my resume in, you didn't ring my references, you rang Jay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
That's a good point. Like, the industry is so close and connected that whether they're going to work in your favor, your networks, or they could be the reason you don't get a job. So it's such a good point that you make, that do a really good job at what you do, but also build strong relationships in each club, because you never know whether it be, like you just said there, vice president, a colleague in an S&C that you play footy with. There's a lot of different social groups that you just mentioned there that got you jobs. I think that's great advice, mate. What about from a methodology point of view and S&C principles? How do you go about developing your knowledge and applying it now in your career when you're working at elite level?
So, that's a hard question, because I don't really think I have a clear-cut methodology. With me, again, I like to get to know the athlete. I like to, build a strong rapport. So I'm pretty personal with all athletes, and it does take its time, and, it can be, taxing, because it can take so much time. But I just, I like to learn from my athlete. I like to, how do I say it? It's one of those things where the more I know about the athlete, the more I can, adapt to them more than, just develop or find new methods. But, what I have noticed, my role at Victoria University has actually, allowed me to develop my knowledge or further improve my knowledge, because I'm forced to refresh, reading articles, journal articles and research. Like, another friend of mine who probably has influenced me, and I didn't mention, Chris Latella, is a research fellow over at ECU. He was someone from day one of my fitness course who I was able to look up to. I've shadowed him, I pick his brain, and some of the research that he conducts and publishes, mate, I just, as soon as it's out, I read it. And, reading these researchers just, allows me to maybe change how I would program. So, something that Chris has been looking into lately is cluster sets, and I've actually implemented it with a few clients, and they've actually been happy with their results with it, especially the testing results have proved. So, a lot of journal articles, having a mentor. So, Arch Pereira, Andrew William, up in Northern Territory, someone who I met from a conference, just networking. And then just friends who I've met on the journey, like Claudio, again, met him at a conference, and, it's funny what a couple of beers can do. Good friends ever since. Just being able to have these guys, hey, listen, can I pick your brain? Again, going back to that, can I pick your brain, leaning on those people around me, asking questions. Listen, I got this client, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts? Have you tried it before? Yeah. Like I said, teaching, but also mentoring people. I've found that it's actually allowed me a lot of time to reflect on my own practices, because, not two people are the same. So, I've been lucky to mentor, handful of people in strength conditioning and even personal training. So, like a girl I mentor, Michaeli, she started her own fitness brand. And just, she's a bit older compared to most personal trainers that come through the system. And just, her knowledge comes from more of a tennis background. She's been, coaching ever since she was, younger. And, just when I'm talking to her, sometimes I just answer my own questions, or, if I might be doubting something, just mentoring these people have actually just, allowed me to find new ways to answer problems. I think at the same time, to finish off, Williamstown, I'm not sure if use a co-high performance role.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember you saying the different lines.
Yeah, exactly right. So I'm high performance manager, head of conditioning, and Richie's high performance manager, head and strength. And I think in the last 2 years, Richie has been someone who I've been able to bounce so many ideas off. He's been a great sounding board. And between me and him, research, read this article, read that article, mate. Can you read this for me? What do you think of that? We've been able to bounce off each other and, develop new ways of, connecting with our players, especially during COVID. It's been a very big thing. COVID, and me and Richie were on the phone before. It's like, all right, with this, extension of lockdown, now we're being scheduled to play Boxhill elimination final in 3 weeks. What are we going to do? What's the program going to look like? How are we going to get the players to gel and connect? So, I think,
unique challenge to be in for sure.
Yeah, so again, I could be here for days talking about ways of developing knowledge and developing methods and all that stuff, because there's been so many influences there. There's been a job interview I had where I didn't get a job because I didn't read books. The person knows who that is. I think you might know too. But it's one of those things where, after that conversation and after, him, telling me that, it was actually something I actually looked and, I actually started to, be more interested in reading books and, purchase books. And it wasn't because I thought if I do it, I'm going to get a job. It just actually, the way he explained things and the way he put his point across, it actually made sense. And, especially during COVID last year, I had a lot of time to read and, my library started to build up. So.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. It's a great mindset to approach it that way, the feedback. And make yourself better for it. Yep. What about, on that note, your biggest challenges in your career, and what did you learn or how did you grow from your biggest challenge?
I think I told you that, I'm not a fan of feedback. I like, criticism. I like to be told what I'm doing wrong than what I'm doing right.
Yeah.
And what's been a major setback? COVID. If it wasn't for COVID, I'd, last year, February, I actually received a contract to go and work for the Chinese Olympic team.
Awesome.
COVID kicked in, and that had to be, pushed to the side. Loris, you've had Loris on here before. He, I actually connected him on LinkedIn. Connected with him on LinkedIn one day, and started conversing and picking his brain as well. And there was he was able to find me. He asked me if I wanted to pursue an opportunity, and because of COVID, that was also pushed to the side. So I think for me, I'm quite lucky. If I've been rejected for a job, I don't take it personally. I just think, where can I grow? What can I do to next time I put a job application in to make sure I get that job? So I wouldn't say they're challenges. They've just been minor setbacks, which I've grown from. But I would say, this current climate that we're in has been the biggest challenge. First, the 2 jobs that I, had to push to the side. Now, trying to, program for semi-elite athletes to play a elimination final in 2 weeks' time against an AFL aligned club, that's a challenge. But it's a bit of fun. So I would say, I haven't had any challenges. I've just had, learning opportunities. And even though it's probably the biggest challenge I face, it's still a learning opportunity. I've learned how to cope, how to, connect with players on a different level. I've learned, how to be more adaptable. I think, one of my biggest problems was, not being, I was always adaptable, but just not thinking outside the box. And I find that now I'm forced to, and I've learned that. So I've been able to make good progress in my career, especially over the last 2 years. Even though I haven't done much coaching in person, I've still been able to fine tune my skills and learn a lot from everything.
No, thanks, mate. It's there's two really big sort of key messages that are coming through, and it's good to see some strength and conditioning coach and personal trainers that have tuned into this live chat. And no doubt there'll be more that listen to the podcast recording when we launch it. But certainly the two that stand out for me is your people skills is something that you pride yourself on as a real strength. And whether you're dealing with athletes or colleagues, you focus on the person and developing a strong relationship there, which is a real strength to have, because at the end of the day, we don't deal with robots and computers; we deal with human beings. So that's pretty important. And then the second one is your ability to continually focus on strengthening your craft, whether it be your programming, your communication, or just simply getting better from people that are around you that have given you feedback. So great mindset, mate, and that makes a lot of sense that you had a passion for psychology early on. Probably because it was something that you've worked on your whole life, whether you realised it or not at the time. So that's great, mate. But,
and I always found that having that psychology background, I've always credited having that background to the way I think and the way I approach things, because it can easy, and you would know how easy it would be to beat yourself up in this industry. It can be a very challenging industry if you let it affect you. But there's no point of feeling sorry for yourself, mate. Prime example, you again, your role at Hawthorn, and now look what you're doing. So you're now empowering the future generations coming through after unfortunate events like of COVID. So you're a prime example of not letting it affect you and just pushing forward.
Yeah, thanks, mate. And like you said, you just have to not survive, but actually thrive in the industry and get good opportunities. You've got to continually make yourself stronger and better, not just for your own sanity, but also for if you want to work with the best.
Exactly right.
You've got to be the best. So that's awesome, mate. We'll have a quick little drink break. Here's some information about our academy, guys, and then when we get back, we're going to lighten the questions a little bit, and it'll be a bit of a get to know you segment with GT. So a bit of fun.
That's great. Should I pull the beers out?
Yeah, get the beers out. Hi, I'm Jack McLean, an AFL football strength and conditioning coach, and I want to introduce you to the Prepare Like a Pro Academy. Our academy is a subscription-based platform where you can sign up to be a part of our community. If you get to the end of each episode of the podcast and are hungry for more, this is for you. Designed for aspiring AFL athletes and staff, you'll receive heaps of bonus weekly content, learn who the guests are in advance, and submit questions. Access to our Facebook group with Jack and other Prepare Like a Pro coaches. You'll be able to receive merchandise, program discounts, and freebies, and get free access to our live events, exercise technique database, and much more. This is a great way for you to support the podcast, and it helps me with production and release of epic content for you guys each week. Your contribution goes a long way in making the Prepare Like a Pro community possible. For a small monthly fee, you'll have access to all of the special content released on our Academy forums. There's no lock-in, and you can cancel absolutely anytime. Very good. Welcome back, guys. Okay, this is our last segment for the night, and then we'll wrap it up with what's GT looking forward to for the rest of the year. But this is an exclusive section of the podcast that just goes to our Patreon members, GT. So the only people who listen to this are those that are tuned in now live, and the couple of members that we have on the Academy. Just the first one, roll it off. Which movie or TV series has impacted you the most, and why?
So that's a hard question. This
is not S&C. This can be, it can be The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's a hard question, because I think one of the movies that have influenced me the most in my career was all the Rockies. But then after I was playing football so there was a story where I watched Rocky 3 the night before football, and it really got me revved up, got me going, and I got suspended the next day playing football for punching someone, so it probably got me too motivated, but that's football related. Coach Carter, something I've watched religiously my whole life. Again, a bit of, challenges, how they've, faced the challenge of diversity, trying to bring together a community to achieve a common goal.
Yep.
And probably remember Titans, me and my best mate, we were 11, 12, and we actually stayed up and watched Remember Titans 3 times in a night. So they're probably we still, to this day, I could do it again. But they're probably the 2 movies, again, sport related, and this was before I knew I was, ever going to be a strength conditioning coach. The Rockies, Coach Carter, and Remember Titans. Easy.
Love it. In your work life, what makes you angry, i.e. pet peeves? This question was derived from Jay Ellis. Thought it was a good question. He was asked this once in an interview, so I've stolen it.
What are my pet peeves? People not listening, just lack of respect. So it doesn't matter if it's my teaching or if it's the athlete. If I'm talking and I don't have their attention, I'm probably annoyed at myself for not being able to grab their attention. But at the same time, it's a bit of respect on their behalf just to listen. They're there for a reason. So I'm not there just to spin a yarn and just have a good time. I'm there for a purpose. So I reckon not listening. I guess one thing about me, if for example, if I look at my students and I look at my athletes, sometimes I pretend my students are athletes, so I do expect more of them when I probably shouldn't. What else? Oh, probably LinkedIn again. Like I said before, I'm happy to answer anyone's questions on LinkedIn if they message me. But just the tone in which some people message me, just like,
got to be respectful, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, mate, I know I'm a nobody. Like, I still haven't made a name for myself on the international scene. Like, yeah, cool. But don't tell me how great your programs have been, and then when I actually give you honest feedback, you crack the shit and block me on LinkedIn. So, I can take feedback, and I'm happy to take any type of feedback, positive, negative, and like I said, preferably negative. But, when people can't actually accept something that's being told to them, and then they want to rebuttal, want to debate, want to argue about why I'm wrong in my opinion, that really pisses me off and it really fires me up. And then sometimes it can just get messy and I'll just lose the shit.
Yeah, love it. Love the honesty, mate.
Yeah.
Favorite inspirational quote or life motto?
Favorite inspirational quote would be from Coach Carter. Our deepest fear. So that's our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's a full poem. First time I heard it on Coach Carter, 2003, 2004, whenever it got released. And then from that day on, it's one of those things that, it's been the background on my laptop, on my phone, on the wall. So it's probably something that, I've posted on social media more than once. It's, probably my favorite quote of all time. Our deepest fear poem.
Awesome. And what's your favorite way to spend your day off?
Watching football. It depends. Like in a COVID world or a non-COVID world. So
let's go non-COVID world.
I like to travel. Like to sightsee. So getting out the house, being social, being adventurous.
Where would you go if you could go anywhere in the world?
If I could go anywhere in the world at the moment, it would have to be back home to Italy. Go and see Nonna. It's been 3 years between drinks, so I think it's due for a holiday. Go enjoy the pristine beaches along the Sicilian coast. Go and enjoy a €2 pizza, €1 beer, and have no problems.
Yeah, the dream. Yep. Well, no doubt. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll be able to do that soon, mate. And
hopefully, very soon.
Nonna and Yep. What beer would you have and what pizza?
Mate, when you're in Italy, you can't get too fancy. You're looking at just a simple margarita, and then Birra Moretti Buffadoro, one of the best beers I've ever had, and unfortunately can't get here in Australia.
Ah,
Yep.
oh, very good. All right, last one, mate. What
Yep.
are you excited about for 2021? What's on the horizon for you?
So, mate, there's 4 months left. There's a few things I'm just sort of working on or trying to work towards. It just really depends on the whole COVID situation. A friend of mine approached me with an opportunity to help him develop how do I explain it without giving too much away? Help him develop something to implement on a national level. It's more like a pathway for a specific sport.
Yep.
Obviously, with my history in junior development and specific sports, he came to me. He was approached by a specific organisation. So, it's something to keep my mind occupied, especially during lockdown, reading articles, research, reading a 428-page document. That's one thing. I am looking at trying to get overseas again. So I potentially do have another opportunity overseas. It just really depends if my boss is watching. Hi, I could be leaving. It really depends on if I can get a travel exemption or not.
Yep.
Yeah, so awesome,
a couple of things in the pipeline to look forward to, and hopefully it eventuates and everything goes, cleans up for us anyway in the country.
Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed.
All right. Well, thanks so much for jumping on. You mentioned Williamstown's got a game in 3 weeks. So for those S&Cs that have sent through the questions, take us through how you and Rich are going about that. What are the boys doing? Because obviously it's a different time. No one would have been faced with that scenario before. A 3-week break going into a final.
Yeah, mate. It's not even that. So Richie said that we've only, from the beginning of July till this first final, we have only played 3 games of football. And prior to that, from May to June, we had only played 1 game of football. So really, from May 24th, I feel like. I'm just checking the calendar. May 22nd, we've probably only played 4 games of football. So, you can imagine the challenges, and, it's been 2-week lockdown, a lockdown extension. So, our planning has just been up and down, up and down. What we're looking at now is, how much more volume can we really get into them this time of year without making it boring as well. So more about the quality of sessions. Obviously they can exercise with 1 person outside. So we've recommended, go for a kick. At the same time, it's a challenge because the juggling act between making sure they're ready physically and making sure they're ready mentally are 2 different, because these boys are training towards now a date for September, but, they've been training for the last X amount of weeks, not knowing if they are playing this weekend. So, there's been a couple of sessions where me and Richie have been like, all right, we'll just give them the weekend off. But, I've tried to, implement a bit of skill work with a bit of conditioning in between. So it's 3 blocks of skills, 3 blocks of conditioning, more focused on the quality than anything. The loading is well out the window to an extent because we can't really even monitor their loads. So as long as it's more about feedback on the athlete. So, our training schedule currently looks quite routine. So we're trying to keep a routine for the athlete. But, it's boys, these are the guidelines. These are, what we expect you to do. Let's just tick them off. We're semi-professional athletes. We all signed up to finish this 2021 season. Let's just tick off what we need to do to make sure we are standing there on the last day of September. You know, I don't care that we're going to come up against a team who potentially have 15 AFL players who've been training all the way through. I would back my boys in against anyone. So just really getting that mindset right, getting that maintaining that level of physicality. A couple of issues such as contact. We can't do any contact, which is I've had the boys pummeling up against the goalpost in the last session that I sent out. A few up downs to get that contact with the ground. Yep. So just getting creative again, thinking laterally, thinking outside the box, not just being a robot yourself. Because I think a lot of strength and conditioning coaches can get that way. This is what has to happen because these are the loads I have to hit. So strength and conditioning can become a robot and not actually think outside the box.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Well, thanks so much for sharing your experiences.
No problem.
And, not just what's worked and the easy stuff, but also diving into the challenges that you faced and how you've overcome them to get better. And it's been great to understand your mindset as well as all the things you've achieved so far in your career. And there's only bigger things to come, no doubt, mate. So looking forward to catching up when we can. And thanks again. Really appreciated you jumping on.
Thank you very much, mate. Thanks for having me. Like I said, you probably should have made me the first guest you ever had, so that way I didn't have such a, challenge to living up to the last however many guests you've had.
You've thrived with that challenge, mate.
Thanks, mate. Have a good night.
You too. Awesome.
Thank you. See you later.
See you, mate. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Really great chat. If you missed some of the conversation that we had with GT earlier on, really recommend watching the live stream. I'll post it on my YouTube, the full episode on the YouTube chat. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, Prepare Like a Pro to watch that chat. And then in terms of the podcast, head over to your favorite podcast streamer on all the big ones. So your Spotify's and your iTunes and all the others. And we'll launch this episode in a coming Monday. So stay tuned. We update all our podcast episodes on Instagram if you're on there. And if there's a guest that you want to recommend or if you have any questions around anything that we discussed, feel free to direct message us. And we're going to do a little bit of a prize as well for those that have stayed with us all night. Screenshot your favorite episode of the Prepare Like a Pro podcast, tag it on our Instagram page on your story, and you'll get a free 4-week strength and conditioning program with us. So that's for those that have tuned in and stuck with us. So thanks, guys. Until next time.